I'm running a giveaway where you can win a copy of the game for free. To find out what you need to do to win, keep watching to the end of the video where I'll reveal the rest of the details. Now, enjoy this review of Foamstars. On May 28, 2015, the original Splatoon was released for the Wii U. It was a total turnaround for the shooter genre, featuring a very Nintendo twist. Of course, nobody would ever have expected Nintendo to release a shooter, but Splatoon was different. Instead of just aiming to get the most kills or eliminations as possible, your mission was to cover as much of the map in ink as you could. It was spectacular. Splatoon's inky mechanics were not only a unique choice to make the game more appealing to younger players, but it was also an extremely clever base for new mechanics. The best thing to come out of Splatoon was the movement. Playing as an Inkling, a customizable character that was also part squid, you could turn into a squid and swim through the ink at a rapid pace, making gameplay feel more fluid than almost any other shooter. Not only that, but Nintendo integrated other mechanics into the ink as well. Reloading was now done by swimming in ink, meaning that you were not only encouraged to swim as much as possible to dodge and run away, but you had to do so it was possible to continue shooting. It was an ingenious twist, and it made Splatoon a one-of-a-kind game that spawned 2 sequels. The guns were great fun to fire as well, as different guns had different utilities such as ground coverage for eliminating other players. Overall, Splatoon's polish and its unique premise meant that they were not only well received but incredibly popular, especially with the launch of the Switch in Splatoon 2 and 3. They were beautiful games that had colourful art style and a fast and furious playstyle, and it was clear that Nintendo had created something that would be borderline impossible to follow. We haven't seen anything even close to being able to successfully replicate Splatoon's formula since its release, and what's become evident to me after spending a fair amount of time with Foamstars is that statement is still true. I want to make one thing very clear here before I begin a review that's going to sound like I'm tearing Foamstars to pieces. Foamstars is not a bad game. It's actually really fun. But if you make a game that's almost aping every element of another far more successful game, you're gonna have to live with the comparisons. So what is Foamstars? Foamstars is a 4v4 arena type shooter with shooting mechanics that involve shooting the floor for advanced movement opportunities. Every character has guns that play a different role, from ground coverage to close-up weapons that do a massive amount of damage. Each character also has 2 abilities and an ultimate. Sound familiar? I know, it sounds very, very similar to Splatoon. Of course, there are some differences, but I think that most of these differences come to the detriment of the formula that Splatoon built. Let me explain what I mean, but first, let's get some of the technical stuff out of the way. I tested Foamstars on the PS5, where it was available as a PS Plus Game of the Month at its launch day. It runs very, very well, despite some concerns about performance in earlier betas. There are some slight frame drops and examples of stutter when there's a lot of foam on screen, but only if you're moving very quickly through it and while rotating the camera around quite quickly. Apart from that though, this is a very well running game, with any performance issues it does have not affecting the gameplay at all, at least not noticeably. The art style is also unique and very different from Splatoon. It's colourful in a different way, swapping the bright cartoonish inks for a more muted but still attractive pastel coloured foam. The arenas are all very nice looking, the Las Vegas, or in this case Bath Vegas, setting surrounding them. Visibility is also very good, which is actually quite an achievement, considering the fact that there's foam practically flying everywhere the entire time, with players having extremely noticeable outlines and markers. From a technical perspective, this is all very sound, and it all holds up to make a magnificent looking game with a playful art style and interesting presentation. What isn't quite as sound as the gameplay, which while taking very clear lessons from Splatoon, never quite manages to get the same level of synergy in all its systems. I'll discuss this in depth in my next section, and by the way, consider subscribing if you're enjoying this review so far. I publish regular reviews of a combination of AAA and indie games. Let's do some gameplay systems then. As I've already said, the gameplay systems in place in Foamstars are very similar to the ones in Splatoon, but they're not the same, and that's where this game begins to unravel a little. For example, reloading is a huge problem that totally stalls the gameplay and interrupts its otherwise excellent pace and flow. A big reason that Splatoon was so successful was that it managed to integrate reloading into its movement systems, meaning that combat was literally always fast. In Foamstars, reloading is a chore. You have to almost literally stop in place for a couple of seconds as you reload, as your character can't even run at a standard pace while reloading. It's not even like this mechanic is compensated for by large magazines, or even magazines that regenerate quickly. Magazines are really small in Foamstars, and ammo regeneration begins after a period that's far too long. It's the biggest hindrance to pace I've ever experienced in a game like this, and it really affects your gameplay, seeing how often your kills, not because of a skill issue, but because you need to take 2 whole seconds to reload your gun, and in that time, someone shot you. There's another issue here besides the reloading mechanics, and that's the foam itself. Foam is firstly remarkably low res, and secondly, the supposed pile-up of foam that's supposed to happen regularly is far more difficult to trigger than you think. There are only a couple of characters who have the ability to create a decent amount of foam to a level that alters the gameplay at all, and that comes across as slightly at odds with how movement in this game is designed. It all adds up to easily running into situations where you become overwhelmed due to how easy it is for the other team to remove your team's foam. That of course leads to you being killed, and there we have a problem. The biggest selling point and the most unique thing that came from Splatoon is that while killing players was always an option, it wasn't the main focus. The main goal was always to capture as much territory as possible and paint it in your team's colours. That meant that every single aspect of Splatoon's gameplay was in perfect sync, and everything you did fed into winning the game. Foamstars isn't like that. Your goal in the primary game mode is to kill a certain number of the opposing team until a star player is chosen, which needs to be killed for your team to secure the win. That means that the foam becomes less of a focus and more of a movement option. It might not seem like a huge change, but it is an important one. It's the focus on eliminating enemies puts a sudden emphasis on certain character kits as opposed to others. What I mean by this is that Foamstars favours the characters that come with loadouts that allow for quick eliminations. There's always a scramble to pick 3 specific characters, and every other character is instantly less useful due to a lack of ability to deal close-up damage. Another weakness that I believe this focus on killing shines a light on is how you deal damage, and by that I mean the weapons themselves. In Splatoon you fired ink, which isn't normally what you put in a gun, due to its fluid-like firing pattern, but saying that, because fluid can move quickly and with power if it needs to, the guns in Splatoon were incredibly satisfying to fire. You know what isn't satisfying to fire? Blobs of foam. It feels floaty, and I know that's because it literally is because it's foam, but due to the nature of what it is, eliminating opponents is never satisfying. The guns just aren't fun to fire. I know, this has been an extremely negative review so far, but it isn't all bad. The few mechanics that Foamstars does uniquely have are fun, such as surfing. The way that you kick the opposing players after foaming them is an ingenious mechanic that not only is incredibly satisfying, but also provides a way to save your teammates without adding a classic but ill-fitting down but not out feature. Foamstars may not be as adept as Splatoon at having gameplay that's totally in synergy with itself, but it does still have many mechanics that were given to it by Splatoon that no matter the game they're in, are still fun. Covering the ground with foam so you can surf on it is fun. The frantic 4v4 gameplay is fast and addictive. Having character kits with abilities is also a great mechanic, as it adds a little sprinkling of hero shooter in there too. That leads perfectly into the next section of my review, and that's customization and progression. If you've made it this far, consider subscribing for more reviews. But anyway, I've named this section Customization and Progression because they're essentially the same thing here. I'll get one thing straight right at the beginning. I think that it was a mistake to make the characters in this game hero types, and that's putting aside how fun it is to play as them. The reason behind this is that a traditional loadout system that allows the players to unlock weapons as they go allows them to experience each playstyle and decide on which they prefer. There's also no limit to how many people of each playstyle can be in a game at a time. With a hero system, however, Foamstars would have needed to triple the count of heroes to make a successful system that offered the same thing. As almost all of them are unlocked at the same time, and there's only a handful of them, players are going to settle on a playstyle early, and then find it frustrating that they can't use that playstyle in most games, as someone else has normally already selected it. The reason that games like Overwatch were so successful was because they had a roster of heroes in categories, some of which had very similar playstyles. That meant that there was always a way for players to use a playstyle that they preferred, no matter who everyone else had picked. Foamstars only offers a few heroes, so players can be hamstrung into playing in a way they don't enjoy far too easily. The other advantage of a traditional loadout system is that it allows for a sense of progression. Unlocking weapons and then variants of weapons are what offers Splatoon a sense of progression. As for progression in Foamstars, there really isn't much here. You get some cosmetics, as well as access to rank play that either didn't work or wasn't available when I reviewed the game. I can see many people bouncing off Foamstars due to a lack of progression to support its gameplay. To count on long-term support, games need to have either a fantastic gameplay system that's consistently engaging, or a satisfying progression system. Whether Foamstars gameplay is good enough to warrant people sticking around remains to be seen, but the progression model certainly isn't. Speaking of customization, there are some serious issues here, and it all comes down to the usual suspect: monetization. Monetization in any live service game can be an iffy one. Foamstars, as it currently stands, seems particularly off. Firstly, a game that offers progression in terms of customization options needs to give out some high standard desirable skins to make its progression system appealing. Foamstars doesn't do that. Secondly, if there is a cash shop, the bundles absolutely cannot be worth £38. That's more than I'd pay for this entire game. And if you look at cosmetics in an industry-wide sense, this price point for a few cosmetics is absolutely ridiculous. I thought that they must have been taking the mick with this one, but I checked back the next day and prices were the same. Unbelievable. There's also a battle pass available in Foamstars, surprise surprise, and it's fairly quick to breeze through, but I wasn't impressed by what I saw in my brief look through it. There were a few decent cosmetics in there, and the skins that were already present weren't hugely good, mainly palette swaps of already existing skins. Overall, there's nothing that I'd say that's hugely surprising or invasive here, apart from the item shop prices, but I'm really not impressed by the cosmetic variety on show here, especially considering the huge amount of personality these characters bring to the table. Alright, with monetization out of the way, let's do a little wrap up, and then I'll tell you a bit more about the giveaway. So, wrapping up a review like this is difficult, because I know I've been very negative about Foamstars, but I honestly don't dislike it. I just think that it has some problems, and that those problems are going to cause real issues for it going forward. This is a game that's filled with personality and colours, with solid gameplay that's brought down a few notches by issues in its design. Those issues aren't going to go away either, as they're so far baked into Foamstars' core that no amount of patching will change the way that these issues affect it. Saying that, however, this game is fun. It's addictive, fast-paced, mostly, and easy to learn. I just think people are going to bounce off this pretty quickly within the next few weeks. There just isn't enough content here to keep people engaged, with only a couple of modes and little to no progression. Like this review, Foamstars is a mixed bag, so I'd recommend either claiming it on PS Plus now, or waiting until it's on sale if that's not an option for you. Foamstars tries its best, but try as it might, it stands out as a pale imitation of what Splatoon achieved. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm running a giveaway this week. Here's what's up for grabs. I'm giving away 3 keys for a brand new game releasing on the 12th of February this year. It's called Lightphobe, and it's an asymmetrical FPS game coming to Steam. It's actually the debut title from a developer named Mutant Realm Entertainment, and I'm currently in process of reviewing it, with the review releasing sometime next week. I'll give you a brief description provided by the developers. Lightphobe is an asymmetrical cooperative multiplayer game where players can choose between defending the Earth as a squad of well-armed soldiers or terrorising their enemies as the ethereal skeletal creatures known as Lightphobes. It's an intriguing game that uses light as a gameplay mechanic, with the Lightphobes being immune to damage unless exposed as a light source. I won't spoil my review, but I'm currently having a great time with it. Here's how you could win. Subscribe to my channel, like the video and comment down below that you subscribed, and if you've downloaded Foamstars or not. You'll be entered into my giveaway pool, and I'll pick one winner from this video, one from my Powerboard video releasing sometime this week, and one from my Skull and Bones beta review releasing sometime within the next week. I'll be announcing the winners next Wednesday, and remember, you need to subscribe, like the video and comment down below to win. And I'd heavily recommend subscribing so that you know when my next videos release, so that you can enter again and have a higher chance of winning. Now, with all that being said guys, thank you for watching and for subscribing, and I'll see you very soon.